Movie summary, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, 2017. At Missouri, Earth, year 1980. Ego is driving a car with Meredith Quill. They are happily enjoying the music. Ego makes a stop on an establishment named Dairy Queen. They then go down the forest and Ego shows the seedling he planted. Meredith Quill says she can't believe that she fell in love with a spaceman, then the two lovers kiss. After 34 years, the Guardians of the Galaxy are positioned on a platform as they attempt to protect Anulax batteries for their latest employers, the Sovereigns. The Guardians have their weapons prepared as they prepare to confront an interdimensional creature known as the Obelisk. The Obelisk arrives, prompting the Guardians to spring into action, with the exception of Groot. While Groot is dancing to the music, the others are busy fighting the Obelisk. Drax ends up falling on the speaker, destroying it, which angered Groot. Since they cannot damage the Obelisk from the outside, Drax tries to kill it from inside by allowing it to swallow him. Peter notices a cut on the monster's neck and orders Rocket to get it to look up. Gamora then cuts downward into the Obelisk, killing it and allowing Drax to emerge from the opening. Drax laughs and says he single-handedly killed the monster. The Sovereigns thank the Guardians for putting their lives on the line. The Sovereigns released their prisoner, Nebula, who was arrested trying to steal Anulax batteries. Nebula's release is payment for the Guardians' services. High Priestess Aisha asks the heritage of Mr. Quill. Mr. Quill answers that his mother is from Earth and his father is not from Missouri. The Guardians leave, with Rocket showing his stolen Anulax batteries. On their way to the planet Xander, the Guardians are suddenly met by a fleet of Sovereign drones, all going after them for the stolen batteries. The others figure it was Rocket that took them. The drones start attacking as they try to steer the Milano toward a wormhole that will lead them to the nearest habitable planet, Berhurt. In the distance, another craft passes by and starts to destroy the Sovereign drones. A man appears to stand on his ship and wave to the Guardians. The Milano, which is heavily damaged, forced to crash land on Berhurt. The other ship that saved them lands near them. Ego and Mantis steps out of the ship. Ego introduces himself as the father of Peter Quill. Meanwhile at Cantraxia, Yondu Udonta spots his old comrade Stakar Ogord, who has exiled Yondu from the Ravager team for child trafficking. Yondu tells Stakar that he demands a seat at the table. Stakar tells Yondu that the colors of Ogord will never flash over Yondu's grave when he dies. After Yondu finishes talking to Stakar, the Sovereigns arrive, and Aisha approaches Yondu saying that she has a proposition for him. Ego explains that he sent Yondu to pick Peter up after his mother died, but Yondu kept Peter. Ego invites Peter and his friends to his planet, including Rocket, which Ego calls a triangle-faced monkey. Peter, Gamora, and Drax go with Ego and Mantis while Rocket and Groot stay behind to fix the Milano and keep an eye on Nebula. On Ego's ship, the three talk to Mantis, an empath with the ability to sense other people's feelings and alter them. Mantis lets everyone know that Peter has sexual feelings for Gamora, which Drax finds hilarious. The Ravagers come across the woods where the Guardians crash-landed. Most of Ravagers end up walking into traps laid out by Rocket. Rocket surrenders when Yondu shows up with his Yaka arrow controlled through his whistling. Meanwhile, Nebula asks Groot to get her out of those bonds because Rocket needs some help. Yondu tells them that they will take the batteries and sell them for a quarter of what Aisha was going to pay them. Taserface along with some of the clan, including Kraglanov Fontry, turned against Yondu saying he has gone soft. Taserface tells them that it is time to change for a leadership. The Ravagers then turned on each other and were about to engage in a fight, when Nebula shot Yondu's Yaka arrow controller off the top of his head, knocking him out. Nebula then shot Rocket making him unconscious. Peter, Gamora, Drax, Ego and Mantis arrive at Ego's planet. Ego welcomes them to his planet, with a size not larger than the Earth's moon. Ego explains to them that he is a celestial, and he do not know where he came from. Ego explains to the three that he came up with a human form to travel the galaxy, and he came to Earth and fell in love with Meredith. Ego helps Peter to access his abilities as a celestial, which allowed him to create objects. The two then play catch using the ball created by Peter. Drax asks how Mantis ended up on Ego's planet. Mantis informs him that Ego found her during her larva state, orphaned on her own homeland. Ego raised her and had kept her as his own. As Mantis is about to say something important to Drax, Gamora appears. Gamora then asked Mantis to show them to their quarters where they would be staying. At the Eclector, all Ravagers who sided with Yondu were ejected into space, killing them. Yondu and Rocket are thrown in a cell. They will be delivered to the Kree the following day to be executed. Yondu informs Rocket that he was a Kree battle slave for 20 years until Stakar freed him to become a Ravager. When Rocket asks about why Yondu kept Peter around, he insists it's because Peter was skinny to fit in spaces where the others couldn't. Good for thieving. They see Groot walking, and ask him to come by. Yondu instructs Groot to get a prototype fin for his head. After bringing a bunch of wrong items, Yondu gets his Yaka arrow controller. Yondu then destroys the two guards of their cell. Yondu, Groot, and Rocket then escape out of the cell. Yondu sends the arrow through every mutinous Ravager they come across, killing them. Yondu, Rocket, and Groot made their way to the control room, where they used the advantage of the display screens to kill any remaining Ravagers. Yondu destroys the Eclector due to his arrow hitting a fuel tank, killing Taserface. The three board an escape ship with Kraglin and headed to Ego's planet. Back on Ego's planet, Peter dances with Gamora, trying to persuade her that she felt something for him too. Gamora tells Peter that there is no unspoken thing between them. While sitting in one of the fields, Gamora sees Nebula coming down on her ship, shooting at Gamora. Gamora sprinted away from the ship, escaping the attack. When Nebula crash-landed, Gamora viciously fires upon Nebula's ship. Using her strength, Gamora manages to pull Nebula out of the destroyed ship, which was in flames. Nebula attacks Gamora, and ultimately choking her with her left hand. She is about to kill her, but she let her go. Nebula then tells Gamora that she finally defeated her. Nebula reveals that she never wanted to prove she was better than her, just that she wanted to have a real sister. While Gamora and Nebula are walking, they come across a cavern filled with a large pile of skeletons. Nebula then tells Gamora that they need to get off that planet. Ego tells Peter that as long as there is light in the planet, Peter will have his powers, as well as immortality. Mantis sees that Ego has Peter wrapped around his finger now that he knows about his own powers. She rushes to wake up Drax to warn him that Ego's true intentions are now clear. Rocket, Groot, Yondu, and Kraglin arrive at their destination. Rocket starts to gloat that he wants to save Peter just to prove he's better than him. Yondu shuts Rocket up by stating how scared Rocket really is and how he puts on the tough guy thing as a facade. They then set off to fight Ego's planet. Ego explains to Peter that he wants to make what he calls the expansion. Over thousands of years, Ego implanted thousands of extensions of himself on thousands of worlds. Ego impregnated women from those worlds and produced many children that Yondu delivered to him, that broke the Ravager code. But when they did not carry celestial genes, Ego had them killed. Their bones are what Gamora and Nebula found at the cavern. Ego reveals that he put the tumor in Meredith's head, causing her to die. In anger, Peter begins to unload his guns on Ego in fury. In response, Ego takes Peter and controls him to start spreading the seedlings across the planets, causing mass destruction. Ego also crushes Peter's Sony Walkman and Awesome Mix Volume 2. Udanta and Rocket crushes their ship at Ego, causing the mass destruction to stop. Peter and Yondu pilot the industrial craft underground, tunneling through the planet's surface. They arrive to find Ego's brain sealed in a core that was connected to the rest of the planet. They begin drilling into it, knowing they only had a limited time before Ego finds them. Suddenly, the Sovereign fleet arrive firing at them, causing Drax the Destroyer, Mantis and Gamora to fall out of the craft. Mantis is able to put Ego to sleep. Meanwhile, Rocket builds a bomb using the batteries he stole, which Groot takes and runs off with, despite Rocket warning him not to push the wrong button or else they'll all die. The Guardians fight back against the Sovereigns and eventually destroy their whole fleet with a bunch of lasers. Mantis gets knocked out by a fireball, breaking her hold on Ego and reawakening him. Drax carries Mantis to the ship. Ego's entire planet attacks the Guardians, including their ship. After subduing all of them, Ego resumed using his power to force Peter into reactivating the seedlings around the universe. Peter unlocks his own celestial power and fights his father. Peter creates a giant rock-like glove to punch him. Now freed, Groot then finds Ego's brain in the planet's core, and he sets the bomb to go off in 5 minutes. Peter continues fighting his father using his celestial powers. Rocket gives his last spacesuit to Yondu, knowing he cannot save both him and Peter. Gamora tries to go back, but Rocket stops her, so he doesn't lose another friend. Rocket then orders Kraglin to go. The bomb then explodes, causing Ego's human form to disintegrate. Peter is now just a normal human, no powers. As the rest of the planet is exploding, Yondu flies by and grabs Peter. As they leave the planet's atmosphere, Yondu puts the suit on Peter to save him. Yondu tells Peter that while Ego was his father, he was never his daddy. Yondu then starts to freeze up in space, and Peter sadly watches him die. The Guardians prepare to give Yondu a proper Ravager funeral. Kraglin gives Peter a Zune to make up for his lost Walkman, which Yondu had been meaning to give him for a while. It has 300 songs in it. In return, Peter gives Kraglin Yondu's arrow, feeling that Yondu would have wanted him to take it. Despite having reconciled with Gamora, Nebula chooses to leave and resume her quest to kill Thanos. Mantis decides to stay with the Guardians. As Yondu's body goes out into space, the Guardians see dozens of other Ravager ships arriving to pay their respects to Yondu. Kraglin attempts to practice using the arrow. He struggles to master it, which results in him accidentally injuring Drax. Stakar commemorates Yondu's sacrifice by assembling his own team, which includes Martin X Naga, Charlie 27, Starhawk, and Mainframe. Aisha and another Sovereign converse about their new strategy to eliminate the Guardians. She possesses a birth pod designed to create the ideal being to defeat the Guardians, a Sovereign named Adam. Groot is now a teenager. Peter scolds him for leaving his roots lying around, but Groot just mocks him and plays video games. The elderly Stan Lee, in his obligatory cameo, is seated with the Watchers, recounting his past adventures, but they grow weary and depart from him.